Welcome to the Heroic Voice. It is Sunday, July 20th, 2025, and I am here with Oren Phillips to talk about the Dollar Bin Bandits. This is the Heroic Voice, where I talk to comic book creators and other interesting people on a variety of subjects. I am Dennis Maloney, publisher of the Heroic Multiverse, where we feature good girl and bad girl artwork, super babes, and all kinds of Silver Agey style stories. Pleasure to meet you, Oren.
Very nice to meet you. Thank you so much for having me on.
Well, it is a pleasure to have you on, in addition to being nice to meet you.
There
So,
we go.
tell people who may not be familiar with it what the evil dollar bin bandits steal.
We steal, I guess, people's time. We are a podcast and a YouTube show. We interview people from the professional comic community, independent comic community. Uh, we've gotten a little more into TV and movies with some actors and actresses that are coming on, and also toys and anything cool, anything nerdy that we enjoy. We love sharing with the folks out there.
Allow me to take exception to the first thing you said there when you distinguished between professional comic books and independent comic books.
True, they are all comic books are comic books.
Okay. And now that that's settled, the YouTube channel, I would assume people can find just by typing in Dollar Bin Bandits.
Yep. And
Okay.
the same with the podcast as well. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. I think pretty much any podcast platform Joe puts us on, so we're good with like that.
And I did notice that you have a website where everything is presumably available as well.
That website was an attempt we were going to do, and it never got off the ground.
Oh,
So we do own the name, but we've never done anything with it.
okay. Then what did I see? I thought I saw some stuff on there when I looked for that.
I'm not too sure.
Oh, okay. Take a look. If you do Google search for Dollar Bin Bandits, you'll find a link to a website.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so maybe somebody has been working on it. You do have partners in this.
I have two co-hosts. Yeah, my co-host Mike Farah and Joe Marcello. We've known each other for I've known Mike for 45 years. I've known Joe for 30 some odd years. So they're wonderful guys and great partners to have. And also Sean McMillan, who does our graphics and promos. He's a wonderful partner as well.
Social media presence that people can communicate with you.
We are on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
All right. So tell me, when you do an interview,
Mhm.
whether you're dealing with a professional or an independent comic book person,
There you go.
what is it that you try to coax out of them? How do you approach your interviews? What is it that you're looking for?
I think we try to find out more about the person itself. I love to find out people's processes when it comes to character creation and what their influences are. And so many of these folks work on numerous books at one time. So I like to see how they sort of focus on one thing and not things all mixed up. Many of these folks have been asked the same question numerous times, again and
Yeah.
again over the years. And I think it's one of those things that if you want that information, it's certainly easy to find in different interviews. Um, I think with us, we try to get to know the people a little bit more and what makes them tick and just have more of a friendly conversation than sort of, just question after question of, well, what was it like working on Black Panther? What was it like doing Superman? Um, and situations like that.
It can, I know from personal experience, almost every interview that I do, I get
Mhm.
asked, "How did you come up with flair?" Right.
Right.
And the question's been answered so many times. I'll answer it, but it does get tiresome and occasionally a little tedious to revisit the same questions over and over. So I like the fact that you're trying to approach it from a different angle. I think that's great. In recent months, um, who have you been interviewing that people should be interested in? Not the people that they are interested in,
Mhm.
people they may not be aware of that they should be aware of.
There's numerous uh, independent creators. One of my favorites is a young man. His name is Ray McKay.
Oh,
He's out
I've
in
interviewed Ray.
Yep. I saw that one and I was so happy to see him out there. He is such a nice guy, uh very talented. The way he writes, it sort of has sort of an old school feel for me. I love older comics. Um and it's great to see a young person getting interested in the medium and really putting himself out there. He's done stuff with Big Bang and a number of other comic book companies as well. So Ray is somebody that I look at as somebody to keep an eye on, going forward.
Who else? There must be more than one.
Um, Joe Eli Corrales III.
I do not know that name. Fill me
Yeah,
in.
he's working with Don Simpson right now, on a number of projects, and he has his own book called Impossible Girl. Uh, he's also another very talented man. He's in education. I believe that's his full-time job, but he's out there hustling. He's putting his books out there, um, and he draws it and writes it himself. And these are very well written books. The stories are not complicated, that if you just pick one up right away, you're going to be like, well, what the heck just happened the past 20 issues? So, he's become a good friend of mine. We've worked on a few different projects together. And he's another person out there who's really putting the time and effort in.
All right. Is there, I don't want to push this too far, but is there a third person that you would recommend?
Um, there is Ryan Howitt. He does a book called Badger, not to be confused with the Mike Barron, Steve Rude book. But Ryan is he's a character, man. He's a really cool dude. And his books are just it's almost like train of thought for him. He puts these characters in some really interesting adventures, and I like the originality of it all that he puts into it. I love his passion. I love his just talking to him, his attitude and stuff like that. So Ryan Howitt is another guy who folks should be looking out for as well.
All right. On a somewhat different matter, what the heck is Coffin Bangers?
Coffin Bangers. They are the group in the Monster Mash with the that they sing about. That's Dracula's backup band with a cryptic
Oh,
thought.
they do the mash. They do the monster mash.
I love that song.
It is a classic in its field. I think there are like two in that field. That,
Yeah, it's
yes,
pretty much. I actually I bought his album. Oh, and his name escapes me. Bobby Pickett, I think his name was
that sounds right.
Boris Pickett.
He could
And
do a Boris Karloff. It sounded just like Karloff.
yeah, but all of the songs he did, and not to besmirch him, it's not easy to write a song that they all sound quite a bit like the Monster Mash. It's just
Mhm.
Monster Mash Holiday or different things, Monsters on Vacation. So, but I love all things Universal horror, so he's up there with me.
Ah, very good. All right. Do you have again, in the last few months, a favorite interview that you would like to talk about?
Um,
Or is that an unfair question?
no, that they're all the fact that all these people um take time out of their days, and this, our show doesn't pay people to come on, that they're volunteering their time to come talk to us. It's an honor for us to have them on, and they would do that. I spoke to Jerry Conway a few weeks back. We had spoken to him a couple of years ago. We had him back on, and he is just such a thoughtful guy, and I love his process. And he told this wonderful story about the comic book Atari Force. And it's a book that I liked a lot from DC. I thought it was just like a show for Atari. He said that I think he took too much cold medicine that day and just went into DC and started going on about this, that, and the other thing for Atari Force. And they were like, okay, sure. And then when it was time to do it, he's like, what did I just do? But the book is, it's a lot of fun to read, and I think it's one of those things that we mentioned before, asking him a question about a book that maybe he doesn't get asked about a lot. It's little moments like that that I really enjoy.
Right. On your wall behind you, you have a bunch of stuff. What all, well, I don't want to go over all of them, but what is it that you collect? Because clearly you're collecting something here.
Well, these are bootleg posters, so I shouldn't have them, but I did took them off the internet before posters.com got smart to copyright infringement. But I collect mainly comic books. As a kid, I was a big baseball card fan. I have some Star Wars toys and stuff like that. Uh, but it's just whatever. If I find things kind of cool, I'll pick them up like on my desk. My friend had the original Monkey Mobile.
Oh,
So I keep that here because I love the monkeys, but it's just little things. I'm sort of an old soul. So I if I think it's cool and it's under $5 or something like that, I'll pick it up.
all right. Let's shift over since I touched on collecting and you
Mhm.
collect stuff. Do you have any particular books that you might recommend that people might not be aware of? Something that isn't out there prominently that maybe should be?
I think, well, the thing with me is we all have our different positions in the show. My position is I love everything 1993 and earlier. The guys on my show, they read the more modern books, but I will sing the praises of John Sable Freelance, the Mike Grell series. I'll die on that hill. I think that's one of the best written series you're ever going to find. Um, I recently picked up the Marv Wolfman run. After Mike Grell left, they sort of rebooted it and just called it Sable.
Mhm.
And they were just as good. I mean, I think Mike's were a little better, but they're, again, books you could pick up. Sometimes it's two or three, issues are all sort of linked, but you can find them in dollar bins all over the place. It's
Oh
not
yeah.
going to run you a fortune to pick them up. And you're going to get a good story. You're going to get amazing art. And I'm a big Mike Grell fan, so that's my recommendation.
Regarding dollar bins, let me make a recommendation to people that they not engage in banditry. They should in fact pay the vendor
Yes.
for the books that they pull out of the dollar bin.
Stores like it when you pay.
Yeah. So where did the name come from?
I just came up with it. We were kicking around ideas for the show, and my friends and I, we think dollar bins are the last pirate treasure boxes left on Earth
Arr.
because when you open them up, you don't know what you're going to find. And I just came up with Dollar Bin Bandits, and the guys liked it, and we ran with it.
Well, things have changed. When I was a kid, it was nickels, right? You
Yep.
could go into the bookstores in Los Angeles and
Mhm.
just find boxes and boxes of recent comic books for 5 cents each or 7 cents each. And that was how I gathered together my first collection. You know,
Yep.
going in there into those bins, into what's now dollar bins, you can
Mhm.
find stuff that you didn't even know existed, right? And get turned on to that. So maybe that's maybe what part of what you're trying to evoke with that name, maybe.
A little bit, and just we do some shows where we show off our things we picked up recently out of dollar bins. Just to sort of break up have different content on the channel and the episodes. Um, so if I can scrape together a few bucks, I'll go hit up the dollar bins and find a few things, and I love to show them off.
All righty. Um, Let me throw it to you. Is there a topic in particular that you would like to discuss that I haven't touched on?
I'd just like to know what your thoughts are on the rise of Kickstarters and this boom of independent comic books, hitting the market, hitting social media. Um, this is sort of a golden age for independent creators. What are your thoughts on this new marketplace?
I think that the um, fundraising that takes place on the internet has been a boon
Mhm.
to people whose talent, in past years would not have been exposed to anyone.
Right.
If you can, you know, find your audience,
Mhm.
you might as well do it this way rather than going through the failed distribution system that services comic book stores. As I said just the other day in an interview, right, we left Diamond 20 years ago because from my economist perspective, I didn't see how that model could last very long. And I continue to be astonished that it lasted as long as it did. When you're doing deep discounts and gouging retailers and fans for money to keep your operation going, that's not a long-term recipe for survival. You're not providing a service at that point. You're pulling money out. And that is not a way for an industry to survive. It's had a significant long-term effect on the comic book industry ever
Mhm.
since the late 70s and the early 80s. Um, so I am happy to see an alternative source of revenue for comic book creators. I think it's wonderful. And we have taken advantage of it ourselves and intend to do so in the future, which is something that we will probably talk about when you interview me
Right.
for the Dollar Bin Bandits sometime in the near future.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think, this is a day and age where if you have an intellectual property, um, you know, and you can put it out there on your own and tinker with it over time to create something that fans like and that you're happy with, I think it's a great opportunity to put yourself out there and, your thoughts and ideas and books, there's an open market for it and there's really something for everyone out there at this point.
Yeah, and we should also mention that it's more than Kickstarter. There are several other fundraising sites that are available for people to use. I don't have them on the top of my head. Maybe you do.
I
You
think
can
there's like an
rattle them off.
Indiegogo, uh, Kickstarter. I think Indiegogo and Kickstarter are the two that I keep hearing the most about.
Yeah, but there are others out there.
Yep.
If you do a search for, for fundraising platforms, you can find a whole bunch of them.
Right.
Um, and each of them has its own particular niche that it services.
Mhm.
Find the one that works for you and use it to best advantage. That would be my advice. Um, so,
I was going to ask you, your advice as well too, for because it is becoming such a crowded market out there. When you go on social media and you have a lot of people with their projects out there, how do you make yourself stand out in a crowded field to get eyes on you?
I don't have the answer to that question yet. It seems, in large measure, unless you already have a huge fan following, it
Mhm.
seems to be hit or miss.
Right.
If you stumble upon something that attracts attention for whatever reason, right, then you're going to make it. But even if it's not a big thing, you can still generate enough money to get the book done. Even if you don't hit a home run, you're still probably going to get to first base unless your project is complete crap.
Right.
Um, you know, and even then, right, you can still find your audience because there are
Right.
people who might like that. So put it out there,
Yeah.
and find out if it works because it might.
The one thing I keep asking independent creators is that when you're doing your first book, there's no guarantee there's going to be a book number two. So how do you get everything you want in that book, but not overwhelm the reader that it's so thick and so dense with all these ideas and things that you want to put in it, not knowing if there is going to be a number two? How do you sort of balance yourself
Are you
out?
asking me for creative advice on how to plot out a comic book series?
Sure.
All right. Well, let me. First thing you need to know is what story you want to tell, and this is basic English writing, right?
Mhm.
You don't necessarily have to do it in detail, but you have to have a beginning,
Mhm.
you have to have a middle,
Mhm.
you have to have an end,
Right.
and you have to, at least to start with, kind of know how you're going to get there,
Mhm.
even though that is more than likely to change along the way.
Mhm.
Um, this is English 101, right?
Right.
And the rules still apply no matter what medium you're telling the story in. It's
Mhm.
where a lot of movies fail because a lot of movies these days are being written by committee and they don't really have any sense of what the story is that they're
Mhm.
trying to tell. It's a sequence of bits, a sequence of gags that they try to stitch together into some kind of coherent whole, and that usually does not work. Um, the best movies, the best comic books, the best novels, the best short stories are a different animal. In some ways, if you're talking about a one issue book here and you are asking the question of how you get everything, that you want into it, you do that issue as a short story. It's a very different discipline. In a short story, there is nothing wasted. Everything contributes to the story that you're telling. Every word, every picture in a comic book. You have to plot that out very carefully and tell the story that you're going to tell in that first issue. Do not worry about what comes next. Right? Unless you're intent on doing a 6 issue series, just focus on issue one. If you're doing a 6 issue series, you need to figure out what goes into issue one, what goes into issue two, what goes into issue three, plan the thing out. And again, that can evolve. If it turns out that 6 issues is not enough, maybe you end up with an 8 issue book. Right?
Right.
But to your original question, you plot that one issue out as if it were going to be the only story you tell.
Mhm.
Right?
That makes sense. The other thing that keeps coming up um, is, when we were, well, when I was younger, and I know when you were younger, when Superman
I
came
was
out,
younger.
I think at some point, when Christopher Reeve's Superman came out, and for me, Batman 1989 came out, we were running to get those comic books. We just wanted to get our hands on anything, everything Batman, everything, anything Superman. And I keep asking folks, how do we get this generation who love the MCU and they love the DCU, but when you say to them, "Hey, do you ever read the comics?" or if you like that story, there's all these issues, and nah, I'd rather not. How do we sort of connect that bridge again?
Well, that's an interesting question because I would go back a little farther than you did and
Mhm.
talk about the comic craze that happened when the Batman TV show first came out.
Mhm.
And DC shot themselves in the foot with that ultimately because they tried to make the comic books like the TV show, which alienated the longtime fans and didn't attract any permanent readers. Um, so my, how do I put this charitably? Do not be overly influenced by what is happening on the silver screen. Right?
Mhm.
If you want to bring people into the comic books, you have to make the comic books an experience that they will enjoy. By all means, pull them in. Do advertising, do cross advertising, which kind of puzzles me that they don't do a little bit more of that. On the cinema side, telling people that the comic books exist. But that's neither here nor there. Different editorial positions, different people running it. So, but do not focus on what's happening in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Focus on what's happening in the Marvel comic book universe. Make that interesting and get better writers.
Mhm. Do you,
Again, you're in a situation where at Marvel and DC,
Mhm.
you have comic books essentially being produced in many respects by committee. It's not a good formula. You need creative team on the book.
Mhm.
As it was, right? Whether it's Stan or Jack or Stan and Steve, or later on, right? Steve Gerber and why am I blanking? I know his name. He's done covers for us. Like Howard the Duck.
uh, mm,
I'm sorry.
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, he is so talented. He's semi-retired now, but we still have a Liberty Girl cover coming up. That Frank Brunner.
Oh, okay.
That Frank Brunner did. It's a pastiche of the old Superman with the eagle cover. It's beautiful. You can see that on our website. But now I'm getting into stuff that we need to be talking about when you interview me. Let's get back to you, right? Uh, you said Sable
Yep.
was your favorite. Do you have a favorite superhero?
I really dig the John Byrne run on Fantastic Four.
Ah, that was
Uh,
excellent.
I've been had them as a kid, and you find them here and there. And what I liked is that it really sort of focused back on the individuals and their
Mhm.
sort of interactions.
The
Uh,
family. John told me, it wasn't just the Fantastic Four. He considered Doctor Doom to be a part of the family, right?
right.
And that's how he treated Doom,
Yep.
uh, a member of the FF's extended family.
And he also used a character that nobody really talks about, Wyatt Wingfoot, who
Mhm.
I think is a cool character. He had him a lot more involved, as sort of being almost a referee at times. There's a voice of reason going on within the family. And I think that's a run of comics that, uh, all my friends and I, whenever we see them, we're like, oh, dude, burn Fantastic Fours. We got to get those.
John did quite a few things that annoyed me during that run, but
Hmm.
I cannot complain about the talent. And I like the fact that he tried doing different things, right?
Right.
Even if to my mind they didn't quite work, they may
Right.
have been worth attempting.
Hmm.
The stuff he did with Alicia in particular annoyed me, right? But you know, he tried
Yeah.
something new, and I give him credit for that.
Yeah.
And
Uh,
that actually harkens back to an old story that what he did with Alicia harkens back to an old story that appeared in Strange Tales back in the day when the puppet master mind controlled Johnny and had him make a play for Alicia, a deliberate effort to get the Torch and the Thing to fight each other.
mhm.
So I'm sure that that was in the back of John's mind when he came up with the idea of Alicia abandoning Ben for
Yep.
Johnny. Um, oh, but now we're really digressing. What
No,
did you think of Simonson's Thor run?
I was never a huge Thor guy. Um, I enjoy the books when I pick them up. I liked his stuff on Avengers, um, and just getting to speak. We've gotten to know Walt through the years, and he's a phenomenal storyteller
Yes.
and an incredible artist, and his wife as well. She's done so much important work in the comic universe.
Louise, let's give her credit.
Yeah, Louise is an all-star. But I Thor was never my big comic, unfortunately.
I mention it because it happened around the same time as Burns' run, and
Yep.
that gets back to the idea of having creative people working on the books.
Right.
That's the way books work, right? You
Mhm.
you give them their head with maybe a little guidance and just let them run with whatever the concept is.
Right.
No.
And I think Roger Stern on Avengers as well.
I loved Sterno's work on Captain America. It was brief. But
Yes. He I always felt with that run of Captain America that there was a sort of feeling of restlessness within Captain America, that he's trying to do the 9 to 5 job, but things keep pulling him back in to the world that he's familiar with. And it's a great series of books. Roger Stern's just one of the elite as well.
mhm. Yeah, I've known Roger a long time. He is really hard to believe, but he's an underrated talent, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah. So let's sum this up for this. Why should people come and listen to the podcast being generated by the Dollar Bin Bandits?
You're going to have fun. You're going to listen to some amazing people, um, and you're going to hear stories, hopefully, that you're not hearing anyplace else. And I think it's stories that are about the creators themselves, because that's, when I talk to Joe and Mike, this is our sort of way. We just want to say thank you to these people who come on, because they've enriched our lives with their stories and their art. So to hear what they have to say and thank them for their work. um, one of he passed away recently, and one of my proudest interviews I've done was with Jim Shooter, because I felt like I started to see, you hear stories about this side and that side, and he was nothing but gracious, and he told some wonderful stories about decisions he had to make, running Marvel, and his thoughts on things. So I feel that we give maybe a different perspective than some podcasts are just going to focus on certain books and this and that.
All righty. Well, Oren Phillips, I want to thank you for coming on today. This has been an enlightening, in some ways, conversation. And I do want to encourage people to, visit your YouTube channel and to visit the Heroic Voice YouTube channel more than they do.
Yes.
If you like this interview, please, by all means, tell people, like, share, subscribe, because that's the only way a YouTube channel grows. And that's true for us as well as for the Dollar Bin Bandits. So let me
100%.
bid you the rest of Sunday. I hope you have, I know you're doing something with your daughter later, so that's
Yes.
cool. And we will bid you good night.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
It was a pleasure.
All right.
you.